Hi and welcome to this video where I'm going to show you how to perform an emergency stop. This is without doubt the second most mistaught and misunderstood topic on the whole syllabus when it comes to learning to drive. There are many instructors I've seen in the past who have just said things like, when the examiner says stop and puts a hand up like that, slam the brake on. That is not how you do an emergency stop. There is far more to it than that. Actually performing one is relatively simple, but getting it correct and getting it spot on is very difficult. So I'm going to talk through now what the emergency stop is, when you need it and how to do it. So first of all, what is it? Well, as the name suggests, emergency stop, or it's also called a controlled stop. It's only really meant for emergencies. You see that man walking up the road in front of me there? I had an example years ago where I was driving along and for no reason whatsoever, the person on the pavement like that just jumped in front of the car. I think they must have been drunk or something. So that's when you would perform an emergency stop. Most emergency stops you can avoid having to perform by planning ahead, but you can't plan for everything and you're only human. So sometimes you may get distracted by something going on elsewhere and you end up performing an emergency stop. However, like I said, by planning well ahead, you can avoid most of them. Due to my job though, because I teach learners to drive, you do end up doing them sometimes. The times you should not be doing them, for example, are when you're heading towards a set of traffic lights. Traffic lights are completely predictable. You can tell when they're going to go red, when they're going to go green. You don't want to do it like the person in this video clip did. You don't see as well, these go red, that car decided to stop. Okay, so that's what the emergency stop is. So how would you do it then? Well, like I say, very simple to actually do, but hard to get it correct. So let's go through all of the main elements that you need to be aware of to perform an emergency stop. Well, first of all, by the time you do this, you should know which pedal's which, and you'll have been driving for at least a few hours. So we're not going to go over all of the controls that you'll need. I'm going to turn the car on now, just so I can check that when I press the pedals you can actually see them moving properly, because when the car's turned off the brake pedal doesn't always move in the same way. Okay, so imagine that you're going along the road and we're going to use an example in this video that somebody from the pavement jumps out in front of you. Why they do that you'd have to ask them, but let's just say that somebody jumps out in front of you. So you're driving along and you've got your hands on the wheel. What would you normally do when you start to brake or before you brake? Well, normally you will look in the mirrors. However, on the emergency stop you don't have to look into the mirrors. I will come back to that point in a moment because I do recommend you do look in them, but you don't have to look in them. So let's imagine you're driving along the road, somebody steps out in front of you. Now you do have to brake very firmly. It's nothing like a normal brake. If you look at my brake pedal now, if I go like that, it wouldn't be anything like that. It will be a firm from the gas brake very firmly. It's very hard, very firm brake. Again, there's a lot to go over on this. This video will be quite longer than some of the emergency stop videos you might have seen before, because I'm going to talk through in great detail. But for the moment we're just going to put the brake on very firm, very hard. Not like that, but like that. Bang, it's got to be right down, bang, really hard brake. Remember that the point of this is to stop as abruptly and as safely as you can. At the moment, what's going on behind you is not our concern. We've got to stop. It's no good thinking, oh, I don't want to brake because that car might put a little dent in the back of my car. You're going to kill someone. You've got to stop no matter what. So you slam the brake on like that. You can put it on hard. Now, when should the clutch go down? If you've watched my previous videos in this guide, you'll know that the clutch should go down after the brake to get the maximum braking power. If you go clutch down brake together, you will lose roughly 20% of your braking power. That's because it's just the brakes on their own working. You've lost the assistance of the engine. If you come off the gas, if I'm on the gas now, come off the gas, your engine is still connected to your wheels because your clutch is up. So if you brake with the clutch up, the clutch engaged, that means you get a stronger brake. So what you do is you don't go clutch, brake. You don't go brake, clutch. You go brake, 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 clutch. The clutch goes down at the exact moment where the engine braking has reached its full potential. And I'll demonstrate this in a moment, but quite simply when the engine sounds like it's about to stall, but not just brake clutch, that's no good. So when you perform this, you should be holding the wheel fairly firmly, but not too hard. If you grip the wheel really hard, you can actually turn the wheel by mistake. So you hold the wheel firm, but not so hard that your knuckles are going white, otherwise it hurts your hands as well. Now, Do you know what ABS is? Because there's a system in all cars now. If you're watching this in the UK, I don't know exactly when it was, but it was around the year 2000, it became law that every new car made had to have ABS fitted. So what is ABS? It's quite funny when you ask people this, you always get some funny answers like anti-braking system. I mean, anti-braking is kind of against the idea, isn't it? You want it to help the brakes, or automatic braking system. What it actually stands for is anti-lock braking system. So anti-lock braking systems mean that when you brake, imagine like a bicycle brake, there's like clamps like that come onto the wheel. If you brake and you brake too hard, the brakes grab the wheel so hard it locks the wheel and the wheel skids. Now, the tyre and the wheel slow down at the maximum efficiency when they are still rotating. If you're skidding across the road, you're not slowing down as properly as you could be. The tyre should still be rotating, because when it's rotating it has more control than when it's just sliding across the surface. Think of it like when you're walking down a steep hill. Have you ever tried that? When you're walking down a big hill and your legs start going away from you, you start running, you end up sliding down on your backside or down the hill. The ABS prevents that from happening. Now, the way he does this is he monitors. I'm just going to lock the doors here, by the way. He locked the doors, some dodgy looking people walking around. the ABS locks the wheels, puts the brakes on, but if it senses that the tyres and the wheels are locking, the wheels, that is, tyres, the wheels lock, it will remove the brakes from the wheel and it will put them back on again. So if you watch pedal cam, what ABS does, it kind of does this. It goes like that, but the thing is, he does it quicker than you could ever do it if you did it as a human being. If I go like this now, what was that, 3 or 4 times in a second? If I do it again, what, 2 or 3 or 4 times a second I can do that. Now, the way the car does it is the car can do it, depending on your car. I believe the fastest system in the world can do it about 12 times, maybe more, I don't know. But it's about, on average, about 6 to 10 times that your car can do that. So imagine you brake hard and you start to skid. You come off the brake, back on. In old cars, that's what you had to do. Something called cadence braking. It used to be recommended that when you braked, if you heard the wheels lock, you had to go like this. Now, it's very hard to be doing that in an emergency stop because you just don't have time to think or pump the brake. So what ABS does, it does that for you. So what does that allow you to do? Well, a lot of people falsely think that ABS makes you stop quicker. It doesn't. It helps, but it doesn't really make you stop quicker. What ABS does, anti-lock braking system, it means that you can still steer the car at the same time as braking hard. Now, in older cars, like going back to the 1980s, if you braked hard and steered, you could make the car skid because the wheels would turn and you'd be skidding across the surface of the tyre. So what you do is you brake hard. In any modern car, you can brake as hard as you want. In theory, it should never skid in terms of the wheel. The front wheel shouldn't lock up. And ABS allows you to continue steering. So when you're braking, you can brake, steer around the person that's jumped out, and you should remain in control of the car. Now, of course, this is not something I've ever tried. I don't go pointing my car at pedestrians and thinking, oh, I'll try ABS, see if it works. But if it does work, on the dashboard here, you would have a small light comes up, which in my car, I think in most cars it's the same. It's an orange car with like skid marks behind it to show that the ABS is functioning. When the ABS is functioning, you will know because it can feel different in one of 2 ways. When you brake, the pedal can feel like it's snapped. And the pedal feels like it goes down all the way to the floor like that, and you think, oh, what's going on, my brake pedal's broken. That's when the ABS is taking over. So in some cars it feels like it's snapped, the pedal goes down further than it normally would. In some vehicles it's different. It feels like a hammer on the bottom of your foot. It's just like you're lying on the beach, imagine, and someone's getting a hammer and banging on your foot, so the pedal is going bang, 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 and you can feel it pushing your foot up. Doesn't matter how strong you are, how strong your legs are, you will not resist that motor. It's a very strong motor that pushes your foot up like that, and it's very aggressive. I felt it a couple of times when I've been driving in snow and ice. In some situations, like I think snow, ice, and if you're driving on a beach, ABS is not actually as good because he gets confused by the strange surface. He thinks, why aren't the tyres reacting as they normally do? Sorry, so yeah, on some surfaces it doesn't work as well as others, but for the moment we're going to imagine that we're driving on the road and on the beach. So that's what ABS does. It allows you to still steer as you brake. There is another thing which my car has, not every car has this, but it's called ESP, which is Electronic Stability Program. Now what this does, is it allows you to, now again, I'm not going to try this, I've never seen it working, but in theory you can go around bends quicker and brake, and you shouldn't come off the road because you can control the power supply to each tyre, each wheel, and it cuts the power to keep the wheels on the road. So if, say for example, your front left tyre is going too fast, it will brake it a bit, slow it down and increase the speed of the right one or something like that. You know, it controls your car to stop you skidding off the road so much on bends. Very useful system to have. It's becoming more common, and there have been groups campaigning to get that fitted compulsory like ABS is. By the way, the difference between a wheel and a tyre, the reason I keep correcting myself, the tyre is a black rubber thing, the wheel is the metal bit in the middle. So the brakes work on the wheel, not the tyre, but sometimes I may say tyre by mistake. So that's most of what I need to know about that. So you're going to drive down the road, brake, clutch down at the best time when the brakes are just reaching the maximum efficiency. Once you've stopped, what you do immediately after stopping, not while you're stopping, but after you've stopped, is you apply the handbrake. Now the reason for this is you don't want your car to go anywhere. Now imagine in a real life situation, and this is the problem with doing it on driving lessons and driving tests, it's not a real life situation. Let's imagine you're on a motorway, you have to perform an emergency stop because let's say a fuel tanker overturns or something disastrous like that. There's a UFO, aliens land on the motorway. So you've got to brake hard, clutch down. If you put a handbrake on like this and then come off the foot brake, if you get hit now, you won't go as far forward, but the handbrake absorbs the impact in a better way. Which wheels does the handbrake work on? The back two. If you watch my other videos, you know that already. So it works on the back two wheels. So if you put the handbrake on and you get hit, your car absorbs more of the impact. You won't travel very far, but you will absorb the impact. If you have the foot brake on like that, that's got very strong brakes on all four wheels. You will get really badly injured if you have got the foot brake on and someone hits you from behind, because your body is going to take the full impact rather than the car taking some of the impact. So you put a handbrake on after you've stopped, as soon as it's safe to do so. Another point about this, by the way, now I used to train, or still do train in martial arts, and I'll tell you something from my days doing Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu. When you get thrown to the floor, do you know why most people get injured when they get thrown to the floor during a fight? And I'm not going off topic too much here, there is a valid point for this, valid reason. When you get thrown to the floor, a lot of people have the instinct to put their hands out and say, no, stop, put the brakes on, and they'd land on the floor and they'd break their arms. If you get thrown to the floor, what you've got to do is become part of the fall. You've got to roll. So when I spent hours and hours of my life doing forward rolls, backward rolls, sideways rolls, you learn how to get thrown and how to roll into the throw, so you become part of the throw. Now when you do an emergency stop, it's the same thing. If you can see that you're going to get hit, let's say you can see it coming, you brake hard and in the mirror you see a car skidding towards you. If you tense up and go, you are going to get really badly injured. Now I know this is incredibly hard to do, but I have done this once in an accident I was involved in several years ago now. A pupil of mine stalled at the end of a junction, and this car behind wasn't paying any attention and just ploughed straight to the back of us, because they assumed we were going to move and we didn't, and they just went smashing straight to the back of my car. Now what I did is I saw in the mirror they were going to hit, and I just went loose. You can't relax like that. If you go limp and you let your body go like that, you won't get as badly injured. If you tense up like this, I'm going to get hit, bang, you will suffer bad injuries. I was still injured, of course, it only works to a certain degree. Yeah, you can't prevent death by going loose, but you know, you can sort of, right, I'm going to get hit, loosen up, and you won't get as badly injured. So yeah, we will get moving in a moment and I'll show you an emergency stop, but these are all good things to know. When you perform this stop, if you do it well enough, your belt should lock like that. That means you braked sufficiently, and in this thing, this seat belt, and all seat belts should have this, if your car in this country does, I don't know about other countries, if you pull it like that, it'll come forwards. If you do it quickly, it locks. That stops your head flying forward and hitting the windscreen. So if you're tense and you hit that belt when it's locked, it really hurts badly, believe me, I've done it. So you try and go loose, let your body shake, roll. It's very hard to do. But yeah, it's a bit like in martial arts. You try and, if someone's coming towards you with a knife, the first thing you've got to do, relax. Very difficult to do in real life, but that's what you're supposed to do. Don't get tense. If you get tense, doesn't help. You've got to relax. Anyway, let's get back on the driving for now. So we've talked about braking, clutch down. We've said about not looking in the mirrors unless you really need to. However, I would recommend it, because if you brake and you think, oh, I've stopped, smash, it's horrible if you don't know you're going to get hit. Sometimes it can be better, but it's not very nice. So what you do is, let's get back to the test version for now, the driving test version of this. You brake, clutch, stop. When you've stopped, handbrake on, into neutral, into 1. You then must look in 5 places minimum, and you must hit all of these 5 places or you will be failed on the driving test. You must do left blind spot, left mirror, middle mirror, right blind spot. You must hit those 5 places. If you miss one of them, you can be failed. So I had a people years ago when blind spot, missed the mirror, mirror, now fail. You must check 5 places minimum. You can look over your shoulder out the back window if you choose to. You can check other places, but that's what you do. So we drive at the road. The examiner will say stop, like that, and they don't really shout it out. The examiner, this is where I am, they just say stop, brake, clutch, stop the car quickly, abruptly, in control. You shouldn't travel too far. When you've done that, you go handbrake, neutral, then 1, check all around, and the examiner will say continue to drive when it's safe to do so. If anyone has appeared, you indicate. If not, you just carry on. You only get this 1 in every 3 tests as an emergency stop, so you won't always get it. That's because the examiners will suffer injuries if you did it too often and things like that. You also, when you start to do it, as you notice this road now is very quiet and there's a car up here just as I said that. You often go to do them and they have to say, look, sorry, we're going to have to abandon this because the car's appeared behind. So if you hear the examiner about to say, don't just stop, because I remember years back, the examiner was about to say, turn left, and he went to bang, the people slammed the brake on. Why did you do that? I said don't do it till I said stop. He hadn't said stop. And they will pull you over before you get this, and I'll say, we're now going to perform the emergency stop in the next minute or 2. Please wait for me to give you the signal, which will be stop. So don't do it unless I've actually said stop. Why don't they bang on the dashboards anymore? Because in the old days, they used to get the clipboards and bang on the dashboard. Well, the reason for that is that the dashboards now have airbags in them. So if they go bang, the airbag comes out. Not good. Okay, so that's an introduction to the emergency stop. Let's actually go now and try some, and I'll show you how to perform them. Okay, so let's go and do an emergency stop. Now this road is very quiet. This road's actually been cleared. All the houses have been knocked down, the flats have been knocked down, because it's been cleared to make way for a new supermarket centre coming soon. So this is perfectly safe down this road to do it. I will be checking the mirrors before I do the emergency stop. Again, you wouldn't do this on a real test, but because I'm the only one driving, I haven't got anyone with me to check the mirrors for me. Normally the examiners do kind of give it away, because when they're going to do the emergency stop, they go like that and they check out the back. You know they're going to say it fairly soon, but it can be up to a minute after you've driven. So let's get moving. Let's do mirrors, blind spot, no signal, no one around. Drive as you normally would do, not try and go slow. I've seen people do this and think, oh, I'll make it easy, and the examiner will say, please speed up, please speed up, please speed up. They have this kind of sat-nav kind of voice. Anyway, so I'm getting going. Now the examiner is going to say stop in a moment. I can't afford to do it now because that person's appeared. I don't want to scare them. So I'm going to wait till just after we go over this hill, and I'll do one. So there's no one around behind for a long way. So the examiner says, stop, brake, clutch, stop. Like that. Handbrake goes on, into neutral, and then you come off the brake, and that's the emergency stop. That scared the person behind you. Just see that? That man looked around really quick, and that's why I don't do them when I'm in front of them. It tends to scare people a lot if you do that when you're next to them. So that was good. That was brake, clutch down. Bear in mind as well, I have got new brakes and fairly new brakes and fairly new tyres in this car, and new wheels. I've had everything new. So it performed really well. So handbrake went on, down into neutral, down into 1. You don't have to go neutral, you can just go straight to 1, but that's just the way I've always done it. Check around. No one appears, so no signal required. Off I go. So I'll move off again, let's do another one. So I'll go the road. This is how you don't do it. So the examiner says, stop. That is nothing like an emergency stop. It was not even hard at all. So that's not good enough. So I'll check around anyway. Still no one around. no one ever really comes down this road that much at all. So I move away, okay, I get a little bit of speed, and the examiner says, stop, brake clutch, bang, handbrake goes on, down into neutral, come off the brake, check all around, and off we go. I'm just going to drive around the corner so I can do some more and annoy some other people. But yeah, it's just throughout mini around the corner, there's another area I can do some. It does feel very violent. When you've done an emergency stop, I thoroughly recommend that you pull over and recover from it. Now you might think that sounds weird, but it's quite a nasty thing to do. To perform an emergency stop, it can leave you feeling a bit shaken and a bit kind of, well, you know, you need to pull over and just recover for a bit. You wouldn't do that on your driving test, but you know, that's quite a fake emergency stop because it's not a real emergency stop. But I would thoroughly recommend that you do pull over if if it's safe to do so, if you've been affected by it. So roundabout will go right, quite an unusual kind of roundabout, and I shall perform another stop in a moment. I'll actually show you now something one of my pupils did many years ago, and I went over this in great detail I could just have with you. And the examiners have been through, I'm going to say stop, I want you to perform an emergency stop. And I'll show you exactly what my pupil did. The examiner now said, stop. Sorry if you're that people, it's just so hilarious. I was in the back of the car. That is not an emergency stop. You don't mirror signal, pull over and then scream at the last minute. That was the best scream I could do. It's just funny. I mean, you don't do that. You've got to brake, you've got to stop. Imagine someone's jumped out in front of you. You have got to stop. Now, this is a little bit different in real life, because in real life, you do tend to look in the mirror. I'm just checking the camera's still running there. You do look in the mirrors because you want to know what's going on. So let's see what the test one will be like, then what a real life one will be like. There isn't a lot of difference, but of course there is a difference because it's not a real emergency. So, and the test one, again, the examiner would say, check around, no one around, they say stop, brake, bang, clutch down, stop dead, like that. Handbrake on, one, check, go. Now, real life, the difference is it's nothing like the same, and I know because I've been unlucky enough to have to do some of them. What you have to do is the same thing, but it just feels different. So you go mirrors, well, you might have just checked them, and you think, oh no, kids jumped out, brake, clutch. You think, oh, what's going on, mirrors, car's going to hit me, can we go, can I go, smash. That's what it's like for real. It is nothing like what you do on the driving test. It's a horrible thing to do, and even for an experienced driver, it does leave you a bit shook up, and you think, God, that was close. I can remember one, only days ago actually now, where it was so close to have a massive accident, because I won't go through it all, but city centre driving, some idiot swerved in front of us and we had to brake hard, and he was so close. I don't know how we avoided my car being written off. It was awful. By planning ahead, yes, you can avoid these things happening, but you can't plan for everything. A car could come out this side road now, but if he comes tearing down 50 miles an hour on his phone, smoking drugs, you can't plan for that, can you? You will get extreme things happening, as you'll see in some of the video clips coming up in a moment. So that was the emergency stop. Relatively simple, but often overlooked, and I wanted to make this video quite lengthy to prove the point that it is worth going over this in quite big detail. If I have forgotten any points, I will put them in the description box below, because when you come out and make these videos, I didn't plan this at all. This was completely unplanned. I just had someone cancel this afternoon, so I came out and made this video. If I've forgotten to mention anything important, I will put it in the description box below. But that's what you do. So you drive down the road, the examiner says stop, and they will pull you over and give you good warning before you do this. You go brake, clutch, but remember, try and leave the clutch up as long as you can. It's quite hard in the video to show you that because you don't really get to feel, and I've said this before, you don't feel the way it bites, but if you come into our lessons with me, then you will. So as ever, please check out my website, firstdrive.com. Please remember to like the video, leave a comment if the comments are enabled. Remember to subscribe to my channel, it's all free. You can see all my latest videos, be the first to see my latest videos. I'm also on Twitter. If you go on my website, you'll see my Twitter feed on there with all the latest news of what I'm up to. So I'm going to come out and do this with the real people, and you'll get to see exactly how they perform on the emergency stop. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that, hope that helps you out, and I'll see you again soon. going to try maybe someone parking further on. I want to try and get one in the gap. Is he looking or not? Is he even looking there? Is that cat on the left going to run out of this thing? Nope. Oh, he is, yep. I'm going to watch out. Oops. Oh, you notice by the way, the snakes come off the back seat. If I just show you this, just going to move this out of the way. Old Snakey there, Snakey's come off the back seat. So if you do the emergency stop well enough, then good old Snakey will be sent flying. That's one reason he's there, by the way, in case you wonder why Snakey's there. If you perform the stop well enough, then Snakey goes flying. That's what I always say. Anyway, see you again soon.